One second. We can start.
Shalom. We want to thank everybody who's joined us today for the webinar, and it's our way of saying thank you to the donors who care and who make our
Conference
work possible.
record has joined the
we know
conference.
that you're passionate about Israel, and our goal today is to provide you with an opportunity for some Jewish learning about Shavuot that reflects the Masorti movement, the conservative Judaism.
Has joined the conference.
Meaningful connection, hopefully, between Jewish tradition and how these lessons can apply today. We're going to ask that everybody hold their questions for our speakers until the end, that you mute your cell phones, and that you try and reduce the background noise as much as possible. If you're viewing the webinar, you can enter your questions in the Q&A box, which you should be able to find next to the video feed. And if you're joining us on a phone, you can send your questions via email. Tommy will be taking your questions at info, @masorti.org. We're excited to be joined in our offices today by two people who have key roles within our movement here in Israel. My colleague, Rabbi Mikey Goldstein, who serves our congregation in Rehovot, whereas I'm sure many of you, most of you know, we had a disruption and had to cancel the bar bat mitzvah ceremony for children with disabilities. We also have here with us today Shueli Fast, who is the chair of the Masorti. So we want to welcome everybody, and we're very happy to have two people who are very involved with us today. Just a few words about myself and about what we're doing right now. My name is Rabbi Andy Sachs. I made Aliyah from the States, and I direct the Rabbinical Assembly in Israel and the Religious Affairs Bureau, which is involved in weddings, conversion, burial, kashrut, and many other areas, as we serve as an alternative to the official religious establishment, knowing that there are many people here in Israel who have strong feelings towards tradition, but a strong distaste for the way religion has played out here in Israel. It is Shavuot starting Saturday night, and Shavuot, of course, is the holiday where we received the Torah, Chag Matan Torah. The Torah was given in Bamidbar, in the desert, to let us know that there are no higher ups, there are no the people who are lower, but we're all on the same plane. And we learn not only that Adam was created with Tselem Elohim in God's image, by extension, all people, regardless of their physical, sensory, emotional, or intellectual ability. Everybody's to be treated with respect. In Pirkei Avot, it says, do not disparage or despise any person, for there is nobody who does not have a special moment. One quick story before I hand it over to Rabbi Mikey Goldstein. The first time I attended a bar mitzvah in the special needs program, which did not yet have a name, was years back, and it was a group of children with CP, cerebral palsy. One young man was not able to speak. He had what looked like a popsicle stick attached to his chin, underneath what appeared to be a keyboard with a synthesizer, and he would tap out words on the keyboard. Unbeknownst to the parents of this young 13-year-old, the teacher re-recorded all of the sounds in his synthesizer, so that when he spoke and said the brachot for the Torah, for the first time, instead of speaking with the voice of his special needs teacher, he was able to speak with the voice of the 13-year-old son of the teacher, and he was able to speak like the other children. That was my first exposure. A number of years back, Rabbi Reuven Hammer wrote a tshuva, a rabbinic responsa, on inclusion of those with special needs. That was appropriate for the time because in those days there was no sense of belonging. People felt as though they were outsiders. Now we're working on a tshuva that goes mitzvah, they can participate and exempt others from their responsibilities. Shavuot we will celebrate as a movement this year. We will have a minyan with over 300 people at the Ezerat Yisrael, the Masorti Kotel, our section, the egalitarian section of the Kotel. We will have teachers in Tel Aviv at a Leil Tikkun Shavuot, an all-night study session, which until yesterday appeared that there would only be Orthodox rabbis. We will now have the ability to put forward the idea, Yesh yoter miderech achat l'yot Yehudi. There's more than one way to live as a Jew. I'd like to now take the opportunity to introduce my colleague, Rabbi Mikey Goldstein, who is sitting to my right. In just a moment, you'll see what Mikey looks like. He is the rabbi of a congregation, Adat Shalom Emmanuel in Rehovot. Mikey worked for the movement, even though he grew up in Bnei Akiva, but worked for the movement for many years, and then left us to study for rabbinic ordination at the Jewish Theological Seminary, where he also trained as a chaplain, and he has now come back. He's the spiritual leader of our congregation in Rehovot, has an excellent rapport with people of the congregation and people of the community, and I'm happy to now hand over Reshut HaDibur, to hand over the floor to Rabbi Mikey Goldstein.
Thank you, Rabbi Andy. Good morning to you all in the States there or any other places you might be joining us from. And I'd like to just express my thanks to you for your great support and for taking the time to be with us today on this Jerusalem afternoon. I'd like to start by talking a bit about the book of Ruth that we're about to read on Shavuot. And it's all about, in my eyes, amongst other things, about inclusion and exclusion, about insiders and outsiders. We start off the story meeting Naomi and Elimelech, her husband, who decide with their two kids to go off to
has
Moab
left the conference.
because there's a famine in the land. And it seems that they're not so connected. They have no problem just upping and going. They're probably
Has
from a
joined the
rich family,
conference.
but they don't seem to be too much on the inside. They're quite happy to go be outsiders in a foreign country. And once they're there, we meet two people who are supposedly insiders, Ruth and Orpah, the two women who are going to marry Naomi's children. And according
Has
to the
left
Midrash,
the
they come
conference.
from royal
Has
families.
left the
And
conference.
yet, from their place of inclusion, they're prepared to get married to these outsiders and become excluded from their own communities. After the death of Elimelech, Naomi's husband, and their two sons, Naomi decides to go back to Bethlehem, where she's from. And she tells her daughters-in-law that they should go back home. She's pushing them out. She's excluding them. Yet, we know that Ruth insists on being included. Ruth wants to become an insider in Naomi's life. And so they go back, the two of them, Ruth and Naomi. And there, it would appear that the community shuns Naomi and her new daughter-in-law, Ruth, because they are reduced to gleaning in the fields after the reapers and taking the lot of the poor, very much the outsiders. And then we meet Boaz. I think he is Mr. Insider, if you like. But his workers try and push Ruth away, to exclude. But Boaz is having none of this. Boaz is not only an insider, he's also an includer. And Boaz knows that he, in fact, is number two in line to marry Ruth because her husband died without any children. Levirate marriage means that someone from the family has to marry her and have a child in her first husband's name. There's one guy who we even don't learn his name in the book, because he's thought to be such a bad person, such an excluder. And he says, no, I don't want to marry her, perhaps because she's a Moabite, an outsider. But Boaz knows this is the right thing to do, and he gets to marry Ruth. And we know that his reward and the reward of Ruth, the reward of Boaz, who is an includer, and the reward of Ruth, who wants to be included, their reward is that they are the great-grandparents of King David. I think this is just a wonderful story. In January, our wonderful teacher, Judith Dances, started to teach in the Lotem school in Rehovot, which is for children with disabilities. And she was teaching altogether 10 children, preparing them for a bar mitzvah. They were all boys in this instance. And a few days before, 3 days before the first ceremony was supposed to happen with 4 children who have severe autism, they came to my synagogue where we were going to have the ceremony, and we did a practice run, just like we do a practice run with every bar or bat mitzvah in our community. And it was such a joyous occasion for me, as Rabbi Andy has said, the bar and bar mitzvah ceremonies for these children are just amazing events, very, very moving, and wonderful to see. The children were excited. Their teachers, not just you who did their teacher from the movement, but also their teachers from the school and the support staff who came with them. Everybody was excited. I know that the parents were excited. They'd already ordered all the catering and the photographers and everything necessary. Everybody was ready, and we danced around the shul in preparation for how we danced on the day of the ceremony. And the next day, the biggest exclusion that I've seen, certainly for a long, long time, happened when the mayor of our city, the mayor of Rehovot, decided that this ceremony cannot go ahead because it's to take place at our synagogue, at Adat Shalom Emmanuel, the Masorti synagogue of Rehovot. To tell you the truth, I actually felt like crying when I heard that. I just spent the previous morning with these wonderful children who, in their own way, were being able to celebrate a bar mitzvah that their parents were so sure a number of months ago that just wouldn't be possible. They were going to be included.
Has left the
We
conference.
were the people who were to do that inclusion. And that made me feel we're just obviously doing the right thing if we're including people. And the mayor decided to exclude. It's been very difficult since then for the families. The parents have been in a lot of stress. There will be a ceremony, there won't be a ceremony. My kihila, the congregants, are very upset that the mayor has interfered in something that is not in his area of jurisdiction. Until now, he's never interfered with our kihila. He hasn't been over supportive, but he
We have to stop for a minute, and then they're going to do something with the landline, and then we'll come back, okay? So we're pausing. People can see us,
Alex.
whoever's on the webinar,
Has
but
left
people
the
can't
conference.
hear us. So I'm pausing.
You know how many people are on?
Yeah, 20. Okay.
The leader has disconnected. The conference will be terminated in 5 minutes. The leader has turned lecture off, and your lines have been unmuted. The leader has turned lecture on, and your line will remain muted until the conference leader unmutes your line.
So on YouTube, they can hear you.
We want to apologize for the delay. There are two ways that people are following the discussion today. One is the webinar, and the other is by calling into a central number by phone. And we were told that those who are participating by phone haven't been able to hear. So we're pausing briefly in order to make sure that the technology is all operative. But in the interim, if anybody has questions, again, you can enter your questions into the Q&A box that's found in the video feed. And
Alec
those that are
Has
joining us
joined the
by phone will
conference.
have to send their questions by email. And the email address, and those who are watching can send by email if you prefer. The email address is info, @masorti.org. We're back here broadcasting, and we apologize for the delay. I just remind you, we left off when Rabbi Mikey was speaking about the events that unfolded in Rehovot, and I'm happy to ask him to continue, please.
Thank you, Rabbi Andy. I'd like to pick up about how the children and the parents are feeling at the moment, with the mayor having basically nixed the ceremonies at our shul. And the children know, those who are supposed to have their ceremony at the end of April, they know that it hasn't happened. And the ones who are supposed to have it in the beginning of June know that there's a problem. And the parents have been under immense pressure. All they want is a bar mitzvah for their boys. Quite simple. It appears that the mayor is insistent that not only does it not take place in our shul, but he doesn't really want us to run it. And so he's arranged in the meantime for one of the Orthodox schools in the city for the rabbi of that school to run a new study program, as if the study that we've done for these children is not worthwhile. And they will study with the teachers of this school. And at the end of June, they'll hold ceremonies for these children. We're not sure exactly what those ceremonies will look like. We've been completely excluded in this whole process. And the parents who have been in contact with us are very upset. They like our ceremony. They like us. They like what we do. One of the blessings that we use in the Shacharit service is that we thank God, Shasani B'Tzalmo, who made me in His image, in God's image. And for these parents, it's so important to hear that their children also are in the image of God, like any other typical child. The rabbi of this Orthodox school said, when they asked if they could have this blessing, he said, forget about it. whilst they would like to have their ceremonies with us, it's not possible without the support staff in the school. And so they can't just turn up at a different time of day and do it with us. So we have to, at this point, capitulate to what the mayor is dictating. And we hope that the ceremony that they will have will be one that is respectful of them and of their parents. And the city council actually made the parents sign that they agreed to have this ceremony with this Orthodox school and not with us. That's the ridiculous pressure that the parents have been put under. We've decided at this point that we've done as much as we can. We're still trying if there's any other way, but we're now saying to the parents, we understand you. The pressure that you're under, we understand, and we won't feel bad if you go ahead and have the ceremony in the Orthodox school. But we're also worried now that we won't ever be able to go back to Rehovot with this program, because at least whilst this mayor is in City Hall, because he will not allow us even to teach in the school. That's the story of exclusion. The story that the book of Ruth tries to tell us is the wrong way about. And the real way is to be an includer, to be, if you're on the inside, to bring people in. And so I hope that whilst we're studying, trying to help us, others have just sat there and happy to listen to whatever the mayor dictates. So I hope that for all of you, you also have a Shavuot of inclusion. Shavuot, if you're an insider, you include people, but if you're an outsider, that you get included as well. Thanks.
I want to thank Rabbi Mikey Goldstein, and if anybody has questions, you can send them in, and we'll come to the Q&A in just a moment. Shmueli Fast is the current chair of the Masorti movement here in Israel, and she formerly served as the Yoshevet Rosh, the chair of Congregirat Maccabim in Modi'in. She'll tell us a little bit more about the Masorti movement's work with people with disabilities in the Adarabah program, the Shirley Lowy Center for Children and Youth with Disabilities, and the political realities that gives the mayor the right to close down the ceremony. So I'm happy now, for those who have never met, to meet the chairperson of our movement.
Thank you, Rabbi Andy. I would like to start with talking about the mayor and his ability to do such a thing. In Israel, the mayors are responsible on the education system in their cities. He is actually the employer of the staff of the school, not the teachers who are employed by the Ministry of Education, but the supportive staff of the kids, the children. And he is able to tell them, and this is what he did, that he does not let them to go out of the school to another place and do this ceremony. And this is why the ceremony had to be cancelled, because the kids on the autistic spectrum cannot do things without their team, educational team. On Sunday, I would like to tell you about the meeting we had with the mayor. On Sunday, Rabbi Mikey and me met the mayor of Rehovot. In the meeting was the deputy of the mayor, was the general management of the municipality, and the head of the education department of the municipality. The meeting was about 45 minutes, and he heard from us, from Mikey and from me, about the process of the trying to teach, not trying, but teaching the kids, or the process that they went on for 5 months. The kids every week had a lesson with the teachers, with special ed teachers. They teach them the portion, they teach them the brachot, they teach them how to read the Torah. they were so excited about it. And the mayor heard about all these things. And then he told us his views. His views are very extreme. What can we say more than that? He spoke about your religion, not the Judaism, but your religion. What did you say?
Yeah, הדת שלכם.
הדת שלכם, exclusive, right?
Yeah, right, excluding us.
Excluding us completely from Judaism. He told us we are missionaries. Sorry about my English. I'm a Sabra. He said that the official religion in Israel is the Orthodox religion, and therefore he cannot let us do any other ceremony than an Orthodox ceremony. And of course, we couldn't, hear that, and parts of the conversations were very emotional. We shouted, and he shouted at us back, and it was really. We felt very bad at this point of this conversation. Unfortunately, he did not move a millimeter on his view. He also said that, his deputy said that in the Ministry of Education, they are going to check all of our program because they don't understand how they let this program into the school. And this makes me very worried because we know that the Minister of Education is Bennett from the Beit Yehudi, and I think this is a point to be concerned. We also trod on the mayor's toes into very big points. One point he said, at one point of the conversation, he said that he is very angry at the saying of one of the males that said that he is chashuch. Chashuch means he belongs to the dark ages, and this was very hurting for him. The second thing is that he got many mails from all over the world, and this is the point that I want to thank you for writing and for shouting our shouts and speaking out loud our voice, and this made it didn't make any change of action, but it made him very angry, and he felt very attacked at this action that he got. And I really want to thank you about this support. It made an impact. Now I want to tell you about Adarabba. Adarabba is an umbrella of three very big projects about children and youth with disabilities. It's the Shirley Lewis Center for Children and Youth with Disabilities. We had these projects programs before, but 2 years ago when this center was built, it became much more professional, and now we can rethink and we can be very proud of what is going on. There are three programs in the center, and I would like to tell you about it. The most old program is the Bar and Bat Mitzvah for children with disabilities. It is 20 years old, and about 4,000 kids were being taught at this program and Alula Torah at this program. As Mikey said, it takes about 5 months to teach these kids and to be ready to the ceremony of Aliyah Torah. The second program is Neta'im. Neta'im is a program where kids with special needs are integrated in Noam, our youth movement. It is done in the past, but thanks for this program, it is much more professional. We have a learning program for the counselors of the youth movement. The kids are integrated in groups or as individuals in Noam's
Branches,
sorry?
chapters.
Chapters. Okay. We have big groups of kids in Ashkelon, Ranana, Omer, Haifa, Hod Sharon, and we are talking about integrating these kids during the year, all around the year, and in the camps and in tours that they tour the country. And we are very proud of this program too. The third program is Betzavta. This is a Beit Midrash, especially for grown-ups with disabilities and other people. They learn together. They meet every week. They learn the portion of the week. They learn about the holidays. They read Jewish texts, and together they do it. We have groups in Kiryat Bialik. We have in Modi'in, in Petach Tikva, Haifa, Yeshiva, and we are planning to grow. So this is about the Adaraba Center. I want to tell you also there is a counseling committee to this center, to the Shirley Louis Center, that the participants of this committee are members of Kehilot, there are families, there are of course volunteers, and there are people with disabilities, and they all sit together and think about new programs or how to make programs better. The last thing I want to say about what happened at Rehovot is really my experience. I'm a homeroom teacher to a class, 12th graders of children on the autistic spectrum. And I think it is very, very important for them to have this ceremony because every change in the routine is crucial. They cannot understand changes in the routine, and it makes them very, very irritable and very nervous. And the parents and the families in Israel of these kids have to fight the authorities all the time in every spectrum of their lives. And I feel that our movement did such a great thing in this program of the Barba Mitzvah, and this thing we didn't want the parents to fight about this too, and we're very sorry that this happened, and we hope that we'll overcome this crisis. This and thank you very much, and Chag Sameach, and back to you, Andy.
Thank you. I'll speak here without the with us today. We gave perhaps shortchanged one other event this week. There is a Tikkun Leil Shavuot that is coming up on all night on Motzei Shabbat when Shabbat ends, and we were promised, since it's a pluralistic center in Tel Aviv, that we would participate, and we were excluded, strictly Orthodox, and owing to the media coverage and the pressure and the work of our staff here and people abroad, we were able to accomplish what we thought would not happen. And now we and the Reform Movement have been asked to participate. Those who haven't asked your questions yet, you have the Q&A box. You can also send by email. The first question that came in is, what can we do from the states to support the families in Rehovot and to support Adaraba in general? So who would like to take that one?
I'll start.
Okay.
At the moment, the way we're supporting the families is that the staff of the Adaraba Center are in contact with them, but we have eased off. Like, we don't put any pressure on the parents. We're looking for ways that we might still be able to help them But one way that has helped and that can still help is by putting pressure on the city council and on the mayor. Also, we might have to look for a new way in which to introduce the program back into Rehovot, not through the school system, but through the different organizations that help people with disabilities. And so that might be something that would need financial support to set up a new way of working that isn't in the school system. So there's two things that can be done.
The next question I'll take myself because it's pretty straightforward. What is the name of the center? And the name of the center is the Shirley Lowy Center for Children and Youth with Disabilities. And the word Adarabba means the opposite. On the other hand, that it is, we see things from a perspective that we hadn't seen it before. I'll also ask now the next question that came in is, are there any plans to help healing within the families or within those people who have been hurt by this event?
I think the staff of Adarabba and especially the part of Adarabba that deals with the bar bat mitzvah for kids with special needs are in touch with the families on a daily basis today, and they talk to them and they try to ease their hurt and their pain. And I don't think we can do any more than that because it's a pain. It's a real pain, but I don't think we can do more than that. Only to promise them that we do all what we can to make the ceremony come to a happy end, and that they should have the ceremony that their kids were prepared for.
A perhaps final question, unless any more come in, concerns the right of those people in the States to interfere or to criticize or to be involved here in Israel. One of the things that we feel strongly is that Zionism is something that is a part of the entire Jewish people, and that whether one lives in Israel or one makes the contribution living outside of Israel, we all not only have the right and the privilege, but even the obligation to be involved in helping to build a better state and to see to it that Zionism is infused with the Jewish values that we feel are important. We said that Shavuot has a learning aspect. We study all night. We stay awake all night in anticipation of receiving the Torah. And the Shulchan Aruch tells us in Orach Chaim that we may sell even a synagogue, any holy objects, or even a Sefer Torah in order to provide for Torah students and for orphans. And we can't be, and we haven't been inhibited by financial constraints because we have found ways to make Torah available to those who want to participate. Another question came in, and so I'll ask before we wrap things up if you can give us some insight into the impact on the families and how those who are living in the States who are watching us right now might be able to support those families.
So there was one family who, soon after the cancellation by the mayor, decided they want to have a bar mitzvah with us. They'll do their own thing and they'll come to us. This was a family of a child who was supposed to be in the second group, who were slightly higher functioning than the first group. And so just a week ago, exactly last Thursday, the Adarabba Center arranged for the teacher Yehudi to come to the shul and meet with this child and his parents. And they arrived, and I met them, and I said hello to them, and they arrived, and Yehudi was already inside the actual synagogue part. And so I was taking them there, and their son, he felt the pressure. He felt the pressure the parents were under, and he realized that none of his friends were with him. Until now, this whole bar mitzvah process has been with his friends, another 5 boys that he was going to have the ceremony with in June. And suddenly, it's just him. That's a lot of pressure for a kid with autism. and he also feels what his parents are going through in his own way. And I took his hand and I brought him upstairs to where our shul is. And he was trying to run away a bit, and his parents brought him in, and he put out his hand to me again, and I took it. And he went in, and then they had a class for about 30 minutes, the parents and the boy. And then they left. And then the next day, the teacher calls me up. They were supposed to come again on Friday morning. Says, we won't be coming. It was just too much. The boy can't take it. The parents can't take it. It's like, what can we do? To tell you the truth, I'm not sure what we can do. All I know is that our staff are in contact, our program staff are in contact with those parents who want to be in contact with them. But there's not really much, because what the mayor has done is just taken us out of the picture. So besides not pressuring them, I think that's the best that we can do. And how you can help, I don't know if we can help these families as such, I'm not sure. But we can ensure that many, many other families get to have a bar mitzvah to their children. That's something that we can do. Outside the system, that we won't have any problem whatsoever working with them.
One of the things that the questions that has come through to us is, how is what we're doing different from what would go on in an Orthodox synagogue? Unfortunately, there have been too few resources invested in education for those with special needs, and therefore really the program that we have is the only national program. In past years, and even going back to Talmudic times, it was not understood. People did not know what disabilities were all about. They assumed that these were people who were incapable of learning, incapable of full participation. And as a result, in virtually all Orthodox synagogues, those with disabilities, in particular those who are have cognitive issues, are excluded. They're not able to read from the Torah. They're not able to exempt others. They are not able to conduct the service. They're not able to make Kiddush on Friday night and have everybody say Amen to their blessing. And one of the things that is crucial is that halacha, where there is, people say, where there is a rabbinic will, there is a halachic way. And there is clearly a rabbinic will here to be inclusive within our congregations. And by the way, that inclusiveness also includes reducing the physical barriers to participate, so that those who have difficulty walking or those who are in a wheelchair can still have access to the Sefer Torah and to say the blessings over the Torah. This is something that's now in its infancy, and we're pleased that you are partners with us in bringing this to the Jewish people. And it's the reason that the newspapers were so concerned about what happened in Rehovot, because there's finally an understanding that the Torah belongs to everybody. We say that the synagogue is supposed to be a that it is intended for all people. And this is the thing that we have stressed in our congregations, and it's one of the things that has set us apart.
I would like to add something to what Andy said, Rabbi Andy said, is that the program is a really personal, tailored program to each child. It is not like in the Orthodox synagogues that the ceremony is very narrowed to the siddur and to what it has to be. And what we do is take the child, look at his disabilities, or look more at his abilities, and build the ceremony surrounding his abilities, and not looking at his disabilities, his physical or his mental disabilities. And this is the most, in my eyes, this is the most different thing from an Orthodox synagogue.
I'd also like to add on this issue that, as we already heard from Rabbi Andy earlier on, we have halachic responsa that allow us to move ahead and give these children an aliyah la Torah, right, to have an aliyah be called up just as any typical child would be. And I'd like to tell you that at the meeting we had with the mayor, as we were talking, the Director General of the municipality said, I spoke to the rabbi, this Orthodox rabbi who's going to do the ceremonies for them, and he said to me, I don't care about halacha. I hear their story, and so I want to give them an aliyah. And this is where we're different. Not only do we hear their story, and do we think we need to give them an aliyah, we actually know that we can, and that is halachically correct. And not only halachically correct, it's halachically binding upon us to give them an aliyah. So that's one of the big differences between how people look at it, whether it's from a Masorti perspective or from an Orthodox perspective.
And one thing that perhaps wasn't mentioned because it's almost self-evident, but everything that was said about how we are different from perhaps what might go on in an Orthodox synagogue, we didn't mention that the observance of a bat mitzvah is something that is self-evident for us and something that happens in virtually no Orthodox synagogue here in Israel. So, it's something that we understood, we took for granted, but it's something that really can't be taken for granted here in Israel. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today and for your continued support of the Masorti movement. It's because of donors like those of you who are with us today and those who are on the phone that we're able to continue to provide the programs such as the special B'nai B'not Mitzvah program for our children with disabilities, and as well as the programs that we provide for those who are seeking to convert, for those who need a Brit Milah, for those who want to be married and prefer an egalitarian ceremony. There are all sorts of things that are only possible because of the help that we receive. And we hope that we provided you with some new perspective on the holiday of Shavuot, the book of Ruth, and that we as Masorti, as conservative Jews, must continue to embody the spirit of inclusion that welcomes all people, regardless of where they are, into our communities. If you want a little bit more information, if you want more reading, if you want to know a little bit about the press coverage of these events or what you can do to make a difference, all you need to do is go to the website masorti.org. For those who are Hebrew readers, after you go to masorti.org, you can go to masorti.org.il. You'll also be able, if you'd like, to download a recording of this webinar on our website starting tomorrow. And if you want to contact our office, you can do so by calling 212-870-2216. Again, that number, 212-870-2216. I'd like to thank Rabbi Micah Goldstein. I'd like to thank Shuali Fast, and I'd like to thank behind the scenes Tommy Gottlieb for the technical part, as well as those in our offices in New York and our rabbinic chairs. And we'd like to wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom and a Chag Sameach.
Yeah, we're done.
Right.
The conference will be terminated in 5 minutes. The leader has turned lecture off and your lines have been unmuted.